Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. Thanks for joining me. Sorry I missed last week. Was feeling really under the weather and just was feeling sick pretty much most of the week. So I'm glad that I'm here and feeling mostly put together. I wanted to talk to you all today about my psychologist appointment that I had about 2 weeks ago now, and my first one in a long time. And like I said before, I've been to a therapist and a psychologist before that, but this is the first time in a long time that I'm like committing to routine treatment, weekly treatment. So I wanted to talk to you all about that, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about being just I guess the question of like, should I see a therapist? Should I see a psychologist, and why? And I'm not just saying I as in me, I'm talking I as in general. This is a question that a lot of people are asking because they're not sure if they really do need to go. Like for a long time, I also had that question. So anyway, if you want to hear more about these topics, keep watching. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is that I had been talking about and thinking about going to a psychologist for a long time. Since last year, January, actually, it came up on my radar. I had went to a priest who I really trusted and valued his opinion. I went through all of this work to kind of get on his calendar to set up a meeting with him, mainly because I had been to a therapist before and I had a lot of issues that were kind of resurrecting, and I really wanted to talk to someone about it. And I thought about going to a psychologist or a therapist again, but I was just not wanting to go, not wanting to pay for it, not wanting to do the research, just being a little bit lazy, I guess, and trying to sink back into that mentality that I don't really need a therapist, because that is what took me so long to go to a therapist in the first place when I was in college. I just thought, I couldn't need to go to a therapist. Why would I need to go to a therapist? And my whole life growing up, I only ever heard negative things surrounding mental health. Like all the time, mental health problems were always honestly lied about. Like people even related to me who had mental health problems completely pretended like they didn't, and I saw it destroy their lives and destroy other people's lives. People who've taken their lives because of mental health problems, and no one even knew they had a mental health illness until after they died. And then in general, in movies and just in conversation, hearing people call therapists shrinks, and that people that go to them are just like these emotional wrecks, and just so much negativity. So I never really wanted to go see a therapist. I know I've talked about this background history in other videos, but just refreshing and recapping for anyone this is your first time coming to my channel. So in college, it took about 3 or 4 people that I really trusted to really push me to go to therapy. And while I wasn't, I didn't super duper click with this therapist, it did reveal a lot of issues. It revealed the fact that I did have concrete issues, that I had things that were causing my anxiety and were causing depression, and that I could call these things that I had anxiety and depression versus just, well, I'm just feeling stressed today, or I'm just feeling tired. Like really, having a diagnosis for the problems that I was facing regularly, the things that were really affecting my ability to live a normal life, to lead a good, healthy life. So, but again, like that human weakness that we all have to just sink back into our old habits really hit me after I got married, and I really didn't want to go back, even though I could feel a lot of my emotional problems resurrecting. So I went to this priest thinking, I don't know, for those of you who believe in God or practice a religion, I know for me in my Catholic faith, there's this idea that like, if you have a solid spiritual life, then everything else will fall into place. And it's not that that's not true. Like I know that if I have a solid spiritual life, like I've seen this with other people, their solid spiritual life positively affects their physical life, mental life, emotional life, etc. But that statement, if you have a solid spiritual life, if you have a good relationship with Jesus, everything else will fall into place. It kind of makes it sound like as long as you're praying and have a good relationship with Jesus and you're reading the Bible and you're receiving the sacraments, at least in the case for Catholics, that you should be fine. And that, it must just be that I just don't have a good relationship with Jesus. So I thought, I don't need a therapist. I'll just get a spiritual director again, like I had in college, And for those of you who don't know, a spiritual director is a priest, typically someone who you go to regularly to talk about your spiritual journey, and they give you advice and they give you support and encouragement. So that's what I was seeking. And I went to this priest that I trusted, and I basically sat down and explained to him a lot of, he got me talking, and I started sharing with him like some of the traumatic things that happened in my childhood and even later on in life. And he was like, Mia, you don't need a spiritual director, you need a psychologist. And I was like, yeah, but aren't we taught all the time that if we are connected with Jesus, then everything else would just be better? I feel like all my problems could be, I could handle them better if I just knew Jesus better. If I just knew how to forgive the people who've hurt me, knew how to forgive myself and love myself despite the horrible things that have happened. And he is like, that's all true, but what you're describing aren't completely spiritual issues. A lot of what you're describing that's hurting you are psychological issues and, physical abuse and things like that, that he's like, allow professional help to guide you, to heal you through these things. And if anything, these traumas that I've experienced, and maybe some of you have experienced, could be keeping you from having a better relationship with Jesus if that's what you're looking for. And it really opened my eyes. It wasn't what I wanted to hear at all. He also recommended this book in that discussion we had called Boundaries. I have it right here. It's by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. I just started reading it. Wish I got it on audiobook because as a mom, I have no time, or if you're busy in general, just audiobooks are beautiful. Anyway, I'll link it down in the description. I'll put an Amazon link to it, but definitely read it. I just started reading the first chapter, and it basically is it's like painting a picture of the day in the life of someone with no boundaries. And it is, it's amazing in a weird way because it's really stressful reading it, because I just was like, oh gosh, that's me, that's me, that's me, and that's me. It was just like this stressful picture being painted of a woman who has no boundaries with anybody. And it was like really like me. So anyway, that is going to lead me to my next point, but let me just finish this off. Basically, at the end of that meeting, he recommended this book. He recommended a specific psychologist, and that kind of started me on the journey of researching psychologists. And I was really upset because I wanted things to be as simple as just, if I just prayed more. And this is something that I've had a conversation with someone about, and a few others, where they're like, I think I might need to see a therapist, but I really don't know. Like, I haven't had this horrible thing happen to me, or I haven't been abused. I haven't had, people want to say like, I know someone who has way worse things happen to them, and because I'm not that person, then I don't need that professional help. Like if you know someone who's been abused or something, and you know that they see a therapist, but you haven't been abused, then you feel like your emotional traumas don't matter and that you don't need to see a therapist. That's not the case. Everyone has different emotional issues. Everyone has different mental capacities and strengths and weaknesses, and everybody has a need, to get some kind of professional help, whether it's a physical ailment you have or a mental ailment. So in this conversation with someone I had, I wish I explained this to them, but I want to explain it now to you, that if you're someone who believes in God, and you're someone who, believes in the power of prayer and your relationship with Jesus, seeking professional help doesn't mean you're discounting the power of those things and of Jesus. Like, you're not dissing Jesus by seeking professional help. And my husband actually, I was talking with him about it, and he brought up that joke in The Pursuit of Happiness, where there's that guy, this man who's about to drown and it's flooding, and a guy in a boat comes by and says, hey, let me save you, jump in my boat. And he's like, no, thank you, God will save me. And someone in a helicopter comes and offers to save him, and he said, no, thank you, God will save me. And another person comes by in a raft or something, and he's like, no, thank you, God will save me. And then the man dies and he goes to heaven. He said, God, I waited for you and waited for you to save me, and you never did. And he was like, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter, you dummy. And that joke is so relevant here, because that's exactly what God is trying to do. Like, I go to this priest thinking that as long as he helps me connect better with Jesus, then I'm going to be fine. And he says, no. He actually said, Mia, don't be the person who is like diagnosed with cancer and refuses chemotherapy because they're going to wait till Jesus performs a miracle and saves them from their cancer. He was like, the miracle could be the chemotherapy. The miracle could be the modern medicine and the doctors. And yeah, sometimes crappy things happen and we don't all get healed, and miracles don't always happen in these huge, massive, flashy ways. But what we need to remember is that God created people, and he created nature and the earth, and he can perform miracles, small, subtle, humble miracles through all of these things. And that by wanting to just sit in church with my hands folded, waiting for him to come down and just take away all of my brokenness, if I did that 24 hours a day, I don't really think that's what he wants me to do. This priest was very wise, and he said that I should be seeking out healing through these professionals who can help me and recognize. And he said that there's actually real people who do this, that refuse chemo because they think that it's like discrediting God's powers. And that's not true. Like, God blessed these physicians with these abilities, and he's blessed people with this knowledge to come up with these amazing medicines that have saved millions of people. Maybe that's discrediting him. Maybe, and almost kind of there's like this weird arrogance that I want a miracle to happen for me, like this big old miracle, when maybe I should just humble myself and go seek help just like everybody else. So that's kind of my rant about, if you're thinking of whether or not you should go to therapy and you feel like maybe you might be discounting prayer life and Jesus, you're not. Maybe you're actually saying yes to something he's been putting in front of you. One of the things I like to use for myself as a guide is if I keep thinking about something, like therapy keeps coming to mind and people keep bringing it up, like in college, a lot of different people who I trusted were bringing it up to me, like, have you ever thought about therapy? Maybe that's God trying to speak to you. So don't ignore those desires in your heart, the thoughts in your mind, and people giving you those signs. Maybe God is trying to talk to you. Maybe those are your two rafts and a helicopter. I don't know. So pay attention to the signs around you. That's what led me here. And speaking of here, just really quickly, my psychologist appointment went well. I have another one on Tuesday, and I'll be going weekly. Well, hopefully if it goes well. My first one was pretty good. I liked the psychologist. She listened a lot, which was awesome. And I think that's a really important quality in a psychologist, that they don't cut you off, especially when you're talking about really difficult things. I did feel like she oversimplified some things, like some issues, just like kind of giving advice that was very simple to problems I thought were very complicated. However, I do feel like it was toward the end of the session and she had to go, but I think she was trying to give me some very just simple, concrete advice that was going to be easy for me to follow and understand. And so I'm going to give it another shot. Like, I wasn't like 100% with the visit. However, I'm just getting to know this person and she's just getting to know me. And so I'm going to give it 1 or 2 more sessions and we'll see how it goes. But for the most part, I think she does kind of understand where I'm coming from. One of the things that she pointed out that kind of like is the foundation of a lot of my issues today is that I have like next to no boundaries with people. She was like, which comes back to this book, and it's like so telling because I just started reading this book right before the session. She basically was like, you structure your life in such a way that you cater it to serve other people to an unhealthy extent, which basically means that if I'm not feeling well, but someone else needs something, I will stop what I'm doing and go take care of them. Or I'll spend money and time that I don't have to go take care of other people, or not even take care, like they may not even be in serious need. Like, I think it's important to be there for your friends if they really need you, but just to like be there for everyone all the time and try to be everyone's best friend, everyone's helper. And I did that a lot. I still do. But now that I have a kid, it's so much more obvious because I'm giving to all these people, and then I don't have anything left for me or for my child or for my husband. And she's like, you need to take care of you and your son and your husband, and then everything else comes after that. And she was pointing out that like I really struggled to take care of myself. So that was hard to hear. A lot of things that were hard to hear, but that, and she was also talking about certain people in my life who like are very rude to me and really hurt me when I talk to them. She was like, stop talking to them. And if they don't talk to you kindly, tell them, sorry, you shouldn't talk to me like this. And because you talk to me this way, I'm going to have to like stop talking to you and block you on my phone or whatever. And she was just so frank, and it was just like so intense, but it was kind of a good thing because she basically was like, you don't need to do anything that you don't want to do. You don't need to put up with abuse anymore. You're not 8, you're not having to withstand people taking advantage of you because you're young and you're a child and people can do that. She's like, you're 24 years old. And that's the thing with trauma and abuse. Like, because it happened in my childhood, there are a lot of situations in my life where I still kind of react in that childish way. And I don't mean childish like foolish, but like stupid, like childish as in vulnerable and not aware, like innocent and not aware that someone's like trying to manipulate me or someone's trying to hurt me, or that I don't need to take that kind of crap from people, So yeah, that's what I learned so far. I mean, I definitely was sad the whole rest of the day. Going to therapy isn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Like, it was hard and I was really upset. Like, the whole week I'd have like a moment where I'd remember something she told me, something telling about myself, like, you don't have boundaries. But it's like I'm on a path to hopefully becoming stronger and more aware. I mean, even already I can see how how my lack of boundaries play out in my life, and I'll be like, Mia, wait, you're not setting boundaries here. Set the boundaries. So anyway, if you're wondering how I got around to like researching and identifying a therapist, I'll link that video down below. I talked about that a few weeks ago, and I'll link the boundaries video down below. But yeah, essentially that's all I had to say this week. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope this video was helpful. And as always, if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And another thing I wanted to ask you all to do is, if you find a video very helpful or uplifting or just useful in general, if you could share it on your social channels so that other people who might be in the same boat as you, who might really appreciate this content, can find my content, because it's really hard to get the word out unless, I guess, you guys are helping me. So I appreciate those of you who have been sharing. And again, every week I get great positive comments and a lot of support. This journey has been really challenging, but I'm hoping by sharing it with you all, I can encourage you all to also start on your journeys of healing and just overall well-being. So anyway, talk to you all next week. Thank you so much. Take care.